Deborah, if I kiss you, I won't stop because I can't, I said, my eyes holding her gaze. I gave her every chance to walk away from the studio, but Deborah didn't step back. I've met 100 women before, but none of them ever looked at me with that kind of fire, the kind that makes a man forget himself entirely. I had watched her enter the building, every step from the elevator to the door etched in my mind. At first I hadn't moved, convinced she had come to the wrong place. But when she reached for the bell, I realized she hadn't made a mistake. And now, she was here, wanting something we both know was dangerous.
"Then don't stop," she whispered, her voice low and trembling. The faint scent of her perfume, soft jasmine with a hint of musk, wrapped around me. Her breath came uneven, her hands brushing against my chest as if seeking connection. I could feel the tension radiating from her, the electricity between us impossible to ignore. I reached for her gently, unsure of how to handle someone who stirred me like this. Her eyes held innocence and fire all at once, a combination I'd never seen before. "Deborah," I murmured, the name rolling off my tongue as if it had been waiting there for years. "Why are you hesitating?" she asked softly, a flicker of impatience in her gaze. "Don't you want this?" I shook my head, trying to steady myself. I wanted her completely, but this wasn't just desire. With her, everything slowed down. Every moment felt alive, charged, and overwhelming. I reached for her hands, holding them lightly, drawing them closer. Her breath caught. She stepped back slightly, hesitating. I could see the conflict in her eyes, longing, fear, and curiosity all tangled together. She moved toward the desk, removing her jacket and smoothing her clothes with careful deliberation. The intensity of her focus made my chest tighten. Every gesture, every glance, every subtle movement told me that she wasn't here for a game. She was here for something real, something that could change us both. "I can't believe this," I whispered, lowering my gaze toward her. "I want this," she said, her voice barely audible, trembling yet certain. I reached out, guiding her gently, feeling the weight of our shared tension. Our faces drew closer, lips nearly brushing. The connection was electric, powerful and consuming. She leaned into me, and our breaths mingled in silence, thick with anticipation. The contrast between her composed exterior and the storm of emotion I felt from her was intoxicating. She was deliberate, cautious, yet daring. Every second we held this closeness made it impossible to think about anything else. I pulled back slightly, allowing her a moment to breathe, my hand still lightly holding hers. "Are you sure about this?" I asked softly. Her eyes never wavered. "Yes, I want this," she whispered again. We stayed like that for a heartbeat, 2 heartbeats, the air around us charged with unspoken tension. I had never felt this way with anyone before. She made me forget caution, forget control, forget everything except the moment we were sharing. The anticipation between us was almost unbearable. Each movement, each look, each breath building into something neither of us could ignore. "Tell me what you want," I asked quietly, locking my gaze with hers, feeling the gravity of the moment. Confusion flickered in her eyes. "I just want you," she whispered, voice trembling with something I couldn't name. "That's all," I repeated softly, pressing a gentle kiss to her forehead. A flicker of hurt passed through her gaze. Did she think I wouldn't want her after what had just passed between us? My mind raced, still tangled in the pull of desire and restraint. Her hair was wrapped tightly, a small barrier I instinctively wanted to remove. I reached for the tie, and her fingers clutched mine, hesitant. "My husband," I shook my head slowly. "This moment is ours," I murmured firmly, trying to ground her, to ground myself. She let out a small, breathless sigh, her tension easing slightly. I helped her to her feet, steadying her as her legs wobbled. I carried her a short distance, gently, toward the mirrored wall of the studio. Standing there, her sweater and simple clothes framing her figure, I felt a protective, fierce urge rising inside me. I held her lightly, pressing a soft kiss to her neck. She closed her eyes, exhaling, leaning into the moment. Slowly, I loosened the hold on her hair. Dark waves fell over her shoulders, and I let my fingers glide through them, savoring the intimacy of the gesture. "Open your eyes," I whispered. She glanced at me through the mirror, a faint, hesitant smile curving her lips. "Don't hide yourself like that again," I said softly, our eyes locking, understanding passing silently between us. "Deborah, tell me," I murmured, sliding her sweater from her shoulders. She stood before me, vulnerable, yet unafraid, and I felt my pulse quicken. "How do you want this?" I asked, unsure of how to ask a question so intimate, yet desperate to respect her boundaries. "Am I supposed to know?" she whispered, uncertain. "Yes," I said. This was different. With every other person, desire had been a game, a competition. But with her, I wanted to slow down, to understand every unspoken thought and feeling. Silence thickened around us, weighted with longing. She stepped closer, guiding my hands gently. I moved carefully, aware of the trust she was giving me. Every gesture, every breath, every glance was charged with anticipation, a connection that went beyond words. I helped her sit on the couch near the mirror. We stayed there, close yet careful, exploring the tension in the air, the silent language between our eyes and hands. Her face lifted toward mine, trust and curiosity intermingling. I gave her a soft smile, letting the moment linger, intense and consuming. This is all I need right now," she whispered. And in that quiet, suspended space, everything changed.
Anthonio's gaze was a fire I was finally ready to jump into. For years, I had been a ghost in my own home, a woman kept behind glass. But as I looked at him, the perfect wife George had built started to crumble. George had never made me feel so seen, so alive. It was as if I were discovering myself for the very first time in Antonio's presence. "You make me feel like I've never felt before," I whispered, heart hammering. He guided me gently into a chair, supporting my trembling body. I could feel the electricity of the moment, the closeness between us almost overwhelming. "Oh," I gasped softly. I couldn't control the storm of emotions overtaking me. If not for his steady, careful hands, I would have certainly collapsed. He drew closer, brushing a strand of hair from my face, and his eyes held a warmth I had never known. Every movement was deliberate, attentive, and kind. "Deborah," he said quietly, his voice low and soothing. "Relax. I've got you." I let myself sink into the safety of his presence, my body trembling with the intensity of connection. Not with anything physical, but with the raw closeness of two souls brushing together. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, concern flickering in his gaze. I think so," I whispered, my voice barely audible. He smiled gently and placed a hand on my shoulder. We stayed like that for a while, the silence filled not with words but with understanding, trust, and something neither of us wanted to name yet. "Come," he murmured, guiding me carefully toward a quieter corner of his studio. I followed, my legs unsteady, but my mind focused on the warmth of his presence. He helped me settle, supporting me as I found my balance. His eyes never left mine, and each glance carried a depth that made my pulse race. I felt my breath slow as I let the tension drain from my body. The fear, the worry, the heavy thoughts that had consumed me, for the first time, they felt lighter. He perched nearby, giving me space while still remaining close, his presence a calming anchor. Every subtle gesture, every quiet movement was enough to make my heart swell. "Sleep if you need to," he said gently. "I'll be right here." And in that moment, I realized something profound. I could breathe again. I could be myself, completely without judgment, and the world outside didn't matter. The peace of the night didn't last. The darkness that had hidden us was gone, replaced by a morning sun that felt far too bright. In my sleep, The world was white. A sea of roses, pure and perfect, stretching forever. I saw him there. George. My husband. The man I was supposed to belong to. I called his name, but he didn't answer, and when he finally turned, his face wasn't full of love. It was cold, a mask of disappointment. He walked away. George, George, please. I love you, don't leave me. But the scream was what finally pulled me back to reality. My body jolted upright, my breath heaving. Sunlight poured through the curtains, glinting off half-finished paintings and scattered sketches. My heart pounded violently in my chest. It was all a dream, and there was no George here. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. The soft sheets beneath me weren't mine. The faint smell of paints and vanilla filled the air. I looked around, disoriented, until a gentle warmth touched my shoulder. "Hey, beautiful," a deep accented voice said. I turned sharply and froze. Anthonio stood there, holding a steaming mug. "Anthonio," I breathed, the name tumbling from my lips. "What am I doing here?" "You slept here last night," he said softly, handing me the mug. "Oh." The memories returned slowly, in pieces. I bit my lip, looking away. "Don't tell me you're shy now," he teased. I bent my head further. He offered a smile. My heart fluttered. "Drink before it gets cold," he murmured, handing me the mug. I accepted it with shaking hands. The scent of vanilla drifted up, sweet and familiar. "How do you know this was my favorite?" I began, then stopped. He studied me quietly before answering. "I can see it all, no matter how you try to hide it." My pulse quickened as I peeked at him over the rim of the cup. He sat on the edge of his office table, watching me with quiet intensity. I sipped. The warmth slid down my throat, steadying me. Suddenly, my phone rang loudly, shattering the calm. Anthonio glanced at the sound, then back at me. "It's Jennifer. Answer it," I said quickly. He hesitated. "You sure?" I nodded. The ringing stopped. Then it started again. With a shrug, he picked it up and swiped the screen, hitting the speaker button. "Where are you? George is worried." "I'm at your house, Deborah." Jennifer's voice came through the line. My heart lurched. I dropped the cup, coffee spilling across the floor. "I need to go home," I gasped, scrambling to my feet. "Relax," Anthonio said gently, but I was already panicking. "You don't know him. He gets worked up when he's angry," I said, fumbling for my clothes. "I need to go home now." My voice trembled as I pulled on my jeans. "Relax," he repeated calmly. He handed over my sweater and boots. I threw them on quickly, my fingers shaking. "Don't tie your hair," he said suddenly. I froze. Anthonio stood in front of me. One moment he was giving me space, the next he was right there. "My husband," I began. "Shh," he said softly. "Whoever told you to hide this beauty was wrong." He gently took the hair tie from my hand. "Give me a few minutes. I'll drive you home. Anthonio, I can—" "Deborah," he interrupted, his tone calm. "I'm taking you home. Just trust me." He smiled. Despite the panic in my chest, a nervous chuckle escaped me. The faint scent of vanilla from the spilled coffee drifted back, grounding me. I bent, took one last sip from the cup, and sighed. "I thought you wouldn't want it anymore," he said with a half-smile. "Who resists vanilla in the morning?" I replied. Anthonio laughed softly. He picked up my bag and held the door open. "Let's not keep Mr. George waiting," he said playfully. I gulped down the last sip, slipped into my boots, and followed. He took my hand as we stepped into the elevator. Silence settled between us, not awkward, just calm. His thumb brushed over my knuckles gently. When the doors opened, we walked out into the vast corridor. "Wait here," he said, turning the corner. Moments later, a sleek black sports car pulled up. Anthonio stepped out, opened the door for me, and gestured inside. I slid in. He closed the door gently and started the engine. Type your address, he said, passing me his phone. I returned it wordlessly. Soft music began to fill the car, low and soothing. I shut my eyes, bracing myself for the storm that awaited at home. I must have dozed off, because I felt a light tap on my arm. We're 2 buildings away, Anthonio said quietly, smiling. Before he could finish, I pushed the door open and ran, fear clawing at my chest with every step. Deborah? He called. But I didn't look back. I couldn't. The smell of Anthonio's vanilla was still on my skin, but the shadow of my front door was already swallowing me whole. Every step toward the house felt like walking back into a cage I had almost forgotten existed. And why is your hair like that? My heart flew out of my chest and my hands froze mid-motion on my head as I looked up and saw George glaring at me, his eyes red with anger. My pulse dropped, cold and heavy. I wasn't expecting him to be outside. I had planned a quiet entrance with my hair neatly tied. So, let me understand this, he snapped. I came home at midnight to an empty house. My wife didn't even sleep here? He spat the word wife like poison, his gaze crawling over me with disgust. Bitter bile rose in my throat. I laughed inwardly. After spending the night with his mistress, he had the audacity to come home at midnight expecting to find his meek wife waiting for him. I trembled, words of rage forming in my mind, though I couldn't speak them, but they were sharp enough to cut. Start talking, Deborah. Where were you last night? He barked. You know the painful part? No breakfast, because my wife was out God knows where. That was what mattered to him? Breakfast. Not where I'd been, or my safety. Maybe if you hired a maid, you'd have something to eat, and not worry about where I was, I said quietly. Okay, that's my girl there. I turned, and for the first time saw Jennifer. She stood by the door with a wild smile, her hands on her hips. George looked at her, then back at me, fuming. I'm waiting for an answer, Deborah. I met his eyes, my fury finally boiling to the surface. Anyone who told you to hold your hair must hate you. Anthonio's words echoed in my mind. I could see the hate burning in George's face. God, how did I let him treat me this way for years? I gave everything to us, and for what? My fingers paused in my hair, heart hammering. Then I let it fall, shook my head, and my hair tumbled free. George's eyes widened, his jaw dropping. Jennifer's eyes gleamed. She bounced by the doorway like a child at Christmas. Close your mouth, George. You'll catch a fly, I whispered as I walked past him toward the door. He could go to hell for all I cared. I didn't know where the courage came from, but I was done. Done letting him control me. Where you at? Jennifer asked the moment I reached her, winking mischievously. I nodded. Oh my God! She squealed, grabbing my hand. That's my girl. I knew it, baby. She yanked me inside, excitement bubbling in her voice. My stomach fluttered with a strange joy. I love this, Debbie. Oh yeah, I'm going to get the wine. We're popping to this now, she shouted, running to the bar. I laughed, shaking my head. Are you trying to test me? I was about to sit on the couch when George's voice cut through, sharp and bitter. What's wrong? Your business partner didn't come through last night? Or she didn't meet your expectations? I asked, laughing hysterically as I met his gaze. George's mouth was open in shock, as if I'd just slapped him without touching him. My heart was racing, half fear, half victory, but I stood my ground. Jennifer was here. I knew I wasn't alone. I'm drinking to this, Jennifer shouted, her laughter echoing as she snatched a bottle of George's favorite wine and downed it straight from the bottle. Laughter bubbled in my chest, uncontrollable. Deborah, do you want some wine? I forgot to ask, baby, Jennifer called, her tone teasing. You should get out of my house this minute, George snapped. And what if I don't? Jennifer shot back, leaning against the counter. She's leading you astray, right? George muttered, his tone sharp. George, don't you think you should go to work? You are starting to behave like your brother. Jennifer fired. George's face turned red. Jennifer, I warned quietly. Are you still defending this he-goat? She frowned. He's still my husband. I said softly. Jennifer raised her hands in surrender, sticking out her tongue playfully. Fine. I'll leave. Before I'll say something we regret. I'll come see you, I told her. She winked, still clutching the bottle. I'll be waiting, Mrs. Macfield. She sauntered out, her hips swaying. You see what you caused? George growled, striding toward me, his hands clenched in tight fists. George, please just go to work. I don't want bad energy this morning, I said, twirling a strand of hair between my fingers. All I wanted was a bit of sleep. My nightmare about him had ruined my sweet rest. Were you with a man? He asked, biting his lip, his voice low with anger. And who is R? I know you are having an affair, George. I fired back, glaring at him. He froze. The air thickened between us. Silence burned like acid. If George can't be truthful, then neither will I thought bitterly. I've given too much, and I'm done bleeding honesty into his lies. We stood there, locked in a standoff. I finally turned and walked away, too tired to look at his stupid face another second. I'll find out, Deborah, he shouted as I climbed the stairs. I smirked. Good luck, George, walking away without looking back.
No woman had ever made me feel this way in my life. I want to kiss her again. Once I pick up my brush, I want to paint Deborah instead of her husband that I was paid to draw. Deborah's scent is still everywhere in this room. It's maddening. I'm supposed to be a professional, but all I am right now is a man possessed by a memory. I didn't even have time to settle my thoughts before the studio door opened. There's only one person who treats my sanctuary like a public park. It was Jennifer, Deborah's sister-in-law. Hey, she said, barging inside. I paused, my brush hovering over the portrait of George. If I had known giving her my passcode would lead to this, I would have changed the locks weeks ago. She walked in like she owned the place. Thigh-high boots, a coat that barely covered her intentions, and a smile that used to work on me. But today it just felt like noise. Not happy to see me? She teased, lips curling into a knowing smile as she sauntered closer. I exhaled sharply, irritation bubbling in my chest. Jennifer, I'm busy. Why didn't you call? Her eyes widened, feigning innocence. I never call, Anthonio. You forgot, and you were never too busy for me. Before I could react, she perched close to me. I immediately stood, steadying her. She gasped, Anthonio. Look, I'm sorry, Jennifer, I said firmly. But if you didn't come here for work, you need to leave. She blinked at me, then suddenly burst into laughter. Wait, you're joking, right? No, I'm not. I pointed at the unfinished portrait. I need that. Delivered before Christmas. She finished for me, smirking. It's for my sister-in-law, remember? She took a slow step forward. But that can wait. Christmas is still weeks away. I miss you, she said, moving closer. Disdain burned in my gut. I reached for her arms, trying to push her back, but she didn't budge. Jennifer, you need to leave. Anthonio, come on. Did you forget who I am? She pressed closer, her tone teasing. Jennifer, I started, but she cut me off with a bold smile. Rage flared inside me. I stepped back. She stared at me, shocked. What is wrong with you? I told you I'm busy. Don't give me that excuse, Anthonio. You were never too busy for me, she snapped. I turned away, fighting to calm my pulse. But memories of Deborah, her warmth, her laughter, her gentleness, slipped into my mind. My body responded instantly. Jennifer noticed. Her eyes narrowed, then widened. Wait, don't tell me it's because of her. I said nothing. She chuckled darkly. Oh, Anthonio, you've been close with plenty of people. We never spent the night, but she did, and now you're too busy for me? Her gaze sharpened as she studied me. Her voice shifted into disbelief. She's married, you know. I bit my cheek to keep from answering. Her eyes darted behind me. Oh my God! Her laughter cracked through the air, bitter, incredulous. I turned. Her gaze was fixed on Deborah's portrait finished on the easel. Deborah, lying peacefully, her hair cascading over her shoulders. the faint shimmer of light around her, making her look ethereal, real, mine. A small smile tugged at my lips. I'd wanted to show her how breathtaking she looked, but she'd left earlier. "Anthonio," Jennifer said quietly. "Are you in love with Deborah?" I stayed silent. She scoffed. "Oh, wait. Love's too strong a word for you. You don't do love, but do you like my sister-in-law?" Her tone turned sharp, taunting. "Deborah is not even your type, you know." That did it. My patience snapped. "What's my type, Jennifer?" I demanded. She smiled wickedly. "Independent, confident women who know what they want." Her tone was provocative, but I didn't respond. I stepped back firmly. "Your time's up, Jennifer. I don't want you now, or anymore. Leave." Her eyes shimmered with hurt and disbelief, but I didn't care. My focus, my thoughts, all belonged to Deborah now. "Anthonio," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Hi there." Deborah's soft voice cut through the tension. I froze. For a moment, I thought I was hallucinating. But when I turned, instinctively blocking Jennifer, but she moved around to my side. Deborah stood by the door in jeans and a sweater, her hair loose and falling beautifully around her shoulders. "Hey," I said softly. "Are you busy? Should I leave?" I was knocking. "No, baby, no," I said quickly. "Jennifer," she greeted politely, unsure. "Deborah," Jennifer replied, her voice laced with mock sweetness. "I didn't know you were here," Deborah added. "Yeah, she's a client," I cut in. She was just about to leave. "Oh," Deborah said with a small smile, unaware of the tension. "That's my sister-in-law, you know." "The sister-in-law you were flirting with?" Jennifer hissed into my ear. "Please leave my studio," I said firmly, whispering back. Then I turned to Deborah, answering her. "Yes, baby, I know," I said aloud, masking my irritation as I walked toward her. "Are you coming with me, Debbie?" Jennifer asked, her voice dripping with challenge as she passed. "No, I'll come see you later," Deborah replied gently. I slipped my arms around her waist, holding her close. "You'll regret choosing her," Jennifer mouthed at me, fury in her eyes. Then she stormed out, her heels striking the floor sharply. The silence Jennifer left behind felt heavy, almost like a weight pressing down on the studio. Normally, this space felt like a sanctuary, but right then, it seemed like a battlefield. I stared at the door, half expecting her to storm back in. "Were you two having a fight?" Deborah asked softly, as I brushed a strand of hair from her face. "No," I chuckled, rubbing her back gently. "Jennifer can be intense sometimes." "I know," she said, cupping my face with both hands. "But her intensity is what keeps me grounded in that family." A wistful smile tugged at her lips, but her eyes darkened. "Jennifer is fearless. She can take on anything. Sometimes I wish I could be like her." My chest tightened at her vulnerability. I tilted her chin up, meeting her gaze. "Hey, look at me, baby. There are bold people and gentle people. You don't have to be bold all the time. It's okay to be soft." She shook her head slightly. "But you know Jennifer can face anyone. Even my husband." "Shh," I whispered, pressing a finger to her lips. "You have me now, and I've got you covered." She smiled and playfully nudged me. "Deborah," I said softly, still amazed by her presence. "I missed you," she murmured. "I missed you more," I admitted. "I couldn't stop thinking about you since you left." "Me too. I wanted to rest, but you were in my mind," she said. "Tell me, how did it go when you got home?" I asked. She laughed and walked toward my drawing chair. I set things straight, and it felt so good. Jennifer was there too. "I see," I said, leaning against the wall, watching her move. She looked so alive, so free. "I want to hear more," I added, smiling. "Well, I have other plans," she teased, beckoning me closer with a sly grin. I chuckled and walked toward her. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. Since when did walking toward a woman make me this happy? I thought. "Oh my goodness!" she gasped, suddenly stopping. "Anthonio!" I turned, following her gaze. Her eyes shone as she stared at her painting. "I wanted to show you how beautiful you are," I said softly. "In case the mirror doesn't capture it, this painting will." "When did you draw it?" she asked, voice trembling. "Last night," I admitted, "while you were asleep." "Anthonio," she whispered. "Do you like it?" I asked gently. "I love it," she breathed, walking closer. Her fingers lightly traced the edge of the canvas. "But this is risky. If my husband—" "Shh," I said, moving behind her. "He won't see it. It's for us." She turned slightly, concern in her eyes. "He asked if I was with anyone, and he said he'd find out. He can't," I said firmly, wrapping my arms around her waist. "Anthonio, George does what he says he will. You don't know him," she whispered. "If you know me, you wouldn't be worried," I said, steadying her. She tried to smile, but her lips quivered slightly. Damn him for putting so much fear in her. "Why are we talking about your husband?" I murmured, lifting her gently. "I thought we had other plans for your visit." She blinked as I held her up. "What was the plan again?" "I've forgotten," she said softly. "Me too," I said, smiling, holding her close. "You said you missed me," she teased. "And you said I was on your mind," I countered. "Yeah, I remember that," she whispered. Gently, I brushed my lips to hers. She responded instantly, smiling as we shared a soft, lingering kiss. "Deborah," I murmured. "Just kiss me," she said softly. I smiled and pressed my lips to hers again. We shared a tender moment, holding each other close. The connection between us, strong and comforting. Her phone beeped. "Ignore it," I said, brushing her hair back gently. "Okay," she said quietly. Then it beeped again, faster. "I need to check it," she said, hesitating. "You sure?" I asked. "Yes, my phone rarely rings like that. It might be important," she replied. "Should I put you down?" I asked. "No," she chuckled, holding me a little tighter. "But you should check it," I said with a smile. "Yeah," she murmured, laughing lightly. I kissed her forehead and gently set her down. She walked to the stool, grabbed her bag, and pulled out her phone. The screen lit up her face as she read. Her breath hitched. "Is something wrong?" I asked, walking toward her. I need to go," she stammered, panic flashing across her eyes. Before I could respond, she turned and ran out of the studio. And just like that, she was gone.
I ran. I didn't even say goodbye. My phone had vibrated in my pocket like a warning bell, and every message from Jennifer felt like a brick thrown at my window. Now, I was sitting in her kitchen. The smell of lasagna, my favorite, should have been comforting. Instead, it made me want to gag. Jennifer moved around the kitchen with a terrifying calmness, like she hadn't just set my life on fire with a text message. "Some men can be dangerously charming," she said dryly, her tone teasing but her eyes sharp as she passed me a plate. I blinked. The lasagna was steaming between us, but all I could see was the text she'd sent. "He ruins women. Run if you love yourself. Jennifer, I don't think I can eat right now," I muttered, my voice shaking. "What do you mean by that?" she asked, but only shrugged and walked toward the dining table with her own plate. I followed her and sat across, my pulse pounding. "Jennifer, you introduced me to Anthonio, and now you send me this troubling message about him. What am I missing?" "I just told you what you need to know," she said flatly. "Jennifer, stop! Don't do this with me," I said sharply. A sick feeling twisted in my stomach. My gaze drifted around her home. Every trace of her ex-husband was gone. I wished I could erase George that easily. "I saw you there," I said quietly. "Is something wrong? Is he causing problems?" Her lips trembled briefly before she masked it with a smirk. "He owes me a lot, but it's nothing I can't handle." "What business did you both have together?" I asked cautiously. She looked away, her expression unreadable. "I said it's nothing I can't handle," she repeated, firmer this time. "Anthonio is a strong-willed man," I said slowly. "He does what he wants." Should I speak with him for you? She laughed, a hollow, sharp sound. You seem to know him well. I smiled faintly. We kind of connected. Look, she said, voice low. Stop seeing him before you get hurt. Jennifer, what's going on? I'm finally feeling like myself again, believing I can live without George and even divorce him. And now you're saying, what? She interrupted sharply. Her fork clattered to the floor and her face went pale. Deborah, don't divorce George. No, don't, she said quickly. She called me Deborah, not Debbie. That alone sent a chill down my spine. Men like him don't deserve divorce, she continued. Jennifer, I whispered, sitting up straight. My heart thudded painfully. This was the same woman who had once encouraged me to leave George, the one who had wiped my tears and comforted me. Are you not on my side anymore? Of course I am, baby. She forced a small smile, pushing her plate aside. Divorcing Vincent is something I still regret. Shock coursed through me. What? Men like them deserve to face consequences, she continued bitterly. I was too quick in my anger. Sure, I took control of our assets, but the divorce gave him freedom. I thought he was genuinely trying to change back then, I said, confused. Jennifer gave a cold, humorless laugh. Oh, Debbie, you're still so trusting. That was strategy. We co-owned businesses. He knew I'd act the moment the divorce was final. That's why he pleaded, not because he really meant it. If he'd truly changed, he'd still be accountable now, or at least loyal to one person. But what is he doing? I nodded slowly, my chest tightening. So, what do I do? Her lips curved into a sharp, almost mischievous smile. Play smart, but play it under your control. Rise, glow, be that confident woman again. Show him your strength. When he's forced to face reality, you'll know you've succeeded. Men like that can't handle being outmatched. They like being in control, so snatch that from him. She stood, collecting her plate and fork, heading toward the kitchen. Her words hit me like a storm, dangerous and tempting. My pulse hammered as I remembered George's anger this morning. His face when he saw me confident and unafraid. I think I'll have my lasagna now, I said, smirking and sitting back down. Jennifer smiled faintly, turning toward the microwave. She picked up my covered plate and placed it inside the microwave. Just stop seeing Anthonio, she said casually as the machine beeped. What? I stood so fast my chair toppled backward. She walked toward me with my plate, calm but firm. I'll connect you with someone safer. What if I already like him? I asked softly. Jennifer froze mid-step. Her eyes darkened. You're not telling me the full reason, I pressed. Deborah, the message I sent is enough, she snapped, her voice rising. Do what I said, and don't question me. Her sudden intensity made me flinch. I'd never seen her like this. If you want to argue about Anthonio, she snapped, eyes blazing, then leave. I won't listen. Her glare pinned me to my seat. The kitchen felt smaller, suffocating. I stared at my untouched food, appetite gone. What was really going on? I stood up and left, needing to clear my head. The air in Jennifer's house had become too heavy to breathe. By the time I got into my car, the walls of my world felt like they were closing in. I had more questions than I had answers. I didn't wait to get inside. I dialed Anthonio's number the moment I pulled into the driveway. I needed to hear the truth, straight from him. Make me understand, Anthonio, I demanded into the phone, my hands trembling. The way Jennifer had looked so furious and intense sent chills down my spine. The last time I'd seen her that upset was when Vincent had hurt her. What was she hiding about Anthonio? Why didn't she want me near him? Look, Deborah, it's not what you think, Anthonio said calmly, his voice steady, too steady for the storm I was feeling. I'm not thinking anything. You both are just not saying anything, I snapped. Because there's nothing to say, he replied. Really? I demanded. Then why did she ask me to stay away from you? Silence greeted me. I could hear his uneven breathing over the phone. Start talking, Anthonio, I barked. Deborah. Don't Deborah me. I cut him off sharply. I want the truth. Is that too much to ask? My voice wavered despite my effort to stay strong. Why was everything falling apart just as I began to feel happy again? Deborah, it's not important, he said quietly. Just know I care about you. I'm not— The truth! I shouted. Okay, but it doesn't change anything between us, he admitted. Talk! I demanded, my heart pounding so loudly I could feel it in my ears. Jennifer and I, we had a past, a connection before I met you. But it's over, he said. What? My head throbbed as I tried to process it. It was in the past, Deborah. It's over, I promise. His voice thickened with guilt. Then why did she try to warn me? My voice cracked, almost unrecognizable to me. Deborah, listen. Please don't jump to conclusions, he said gently. Anthonio! I screamed, tears spilling down my cheeks. Until I felt them, I didn't realize how much saltiness had built up inside me. I ended the call, clutching my phone tightly. Anger, betrayal, confusion, they all tangled inside me like a storm. Why had Jennifer introduced me to him if she was trying to protect me? Why would she do this? I felt completely unsettled. I couldn't believe the situation I'd walked into. I dialed her number immediately. Hey, she answered groggily. What is it? I snapped. Why did you connect me to Anthonio in the first place? You needed an artist, well, he is. I didn't expect you to catch feelings for him, she said coldly. I'm trying to protect you before he causes trouble. Like George did. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. My chest constricted painfully. Or maybe you're jealous, I hissed, my voice trembling. She laughed, sharp, loud, and cruel. I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Deborah, you just can't follow simple guidance, she said. All you had to do was keep your head clear. But you caught feelings. You can't control yourself. I'm disappointed. At least I care, I whispered, my voice breaking. Or you let your heart make poor choices. She shot back sharply. Just then, the front door swung open. George stepped in. My anger spiked the moment I saw him. He was the reason I'd fallen into this chaos. He froze when he saw my tears. His bag slipped from his shoulder, hitting the floor with a dull thud before he rushed to me. Hey, he said softly, crouching beside me. I glared at him, body tense. What are you trying to do? I demanded, my voice trembling with rage. He looked lost for a second, fumbling for words. I'm trying to— Why are you crying, love? Get away from me! I shoved him hard, rising so fast my phone crashed to the floor. He looked stunned. How dare you? I choked out, tears spilling freely. My hand trembled midair.
How could you do
wanting
this?
to strike words I couldn't say. Don't follow me upstairs, I snapped, and bolted, leaving him standing there in silence. The night had been a blur of tears and unanswered questions. By the time morning rolled around, I didn't want to talk. I wanted to vent. I went into the kitchen to get myself busy. Cooking always kept me sane before Anthonio. The sharp ring of my phone shattered the silence as I slammed the knife into the cabbage. I glanced at the screen. Anthonio. With a frustrated sigh, I ended the call and turned back to the cutting board. My movements grew harsher, the knife hitting the surface with loud, angry thuds. Memories of George outside our bedroom door earlier flashed in my head, and tears stung my eyes. I blinked quickly, sniffing hard to keep them from falling. I'm done crying, I whispered, slamming the knife down again. A chunk of cabbage flew off the table and hit the floor. I hissed in frustration, bending to pick it up. My phone rang again. I shot up, hit end call once more, and then the doorbell rang. Wiping my hands on a napkin, I hurried to the sitting room. How the delivery came early, I muttered, pulling the door open, only to freeze. Jennifer stood there. A sharp intake of breath escaped me as shame and anger collided inside. I immediately tried to shut the door, but she pushed against it. I'm sorry, she started quickly, pressing gently. Look, I really am. Please forgive me. Jennifer, move. Deborah, please, she begged, her voice soft. I admit it. I wasn't expecting Anthonio to fall for you. I didn't know it would affect me so much. It surprised me. My grip on the door loosened slightly. A small part of me realized she wanted me to be happy. She pouted, her eyes pleading. You're my only support in this family. I don't want to lose you. I folded my arms, watching her carefully. I'm really sorry, Deborah. Please. You really hurt my feelings yesterday, I said quietly. Jennifer rarely apologized, so I knew she meant it. Come inside, I said finally, opening the door wider. You forgive me? She asked, her expression hopeful. I only rolled my eyes, shaking my head. She laughed lightly and stepped in. Just then, my phone rang again. My jaw tightened, my face pulling into a frown. What's wrong? Jennifer asked, noticing the shift in my expression. I shook my head and walked back toward the kitchen. Then the doorbell rang again. That should be my delivery, I said, moving quickly to the door. I swung it open and froze. Rita, George's side chick, stood in front of me. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. If you're looking for George, he's not here, I said, attempting to close the door. Actually, I came to apologize, she said softly. My head fell back in disbelief and a sharp laugh escaped me. Are you serious? She shook her head quickly. I know it sounds strange, but George asked me to come. Oh, I see. I folded my arms, watching her. Please. I'm sorry for the confusion, she said, her voice low, eyes darting around nervously. I promise I won't cause any trouble again. I don't care, I said flatly. She looked up, surprise flickering in her eyes. Tell George I don't care. It's not my concern, I said, laughing bitterly. Deborah, George really wants to make things right, she said softly. Oh, so he thinks I care? I said mockingly. Now leave, and take George with you. I slammed the door shut, leaning against it as I exhaled. Everything okay? Jennifer called from the kitchen. I nodded, still catching my breath. That was George's side chick coming to apologize, imagine. What? Jennifer's eyes widened. I laughed, heading back into the kitchen and picking up my knife again, slicing more slowly this time. Are you serious? Why didn't you call me? I'd have spoken my mind, Jennifer said, clearly upset. I laughed. I hope you didn't forgive her. No, I said calmly. I told her to deal with George herself. Good, Jennifer said with a grin. What was he thinking sending her here? She laughed softly. That man is ridiculous. Before I could respond, the front door opened again. George walked in. His expression shifted the instant he saw Jennifer. His face twisted into a deep frown. Well, speak of the devil, Jennifer muttered. He sneered. What are you doing here? He asked, glaring at her. Shouldn't I ask why you're home this early? I asked him, crossing my arms. Babe, Don't babe me, I snapped, raising my hand to stop him. You're letting her ruin our marriage, he said, pointing at Jennifer, his tone dripping with blame. Don't let me ruin you too! Jennifer shot back sharply. Get out of my house! George roared, lunging toward her. Jennifer screamed as he grabbed her arms, struggling to break free. Unhand me, George! She shouted, thrashing against him. I didn't hesitate. I gathered the salad into a bowl, grabbed my phone and hurried into our room for my purse, rushing toward the door. By the time I returned, Jennifer was already outside, and George was slamming the door shut behind her. Excuse me, I said coldly. Babe, where are you going? He asked, reaching for me. Don't touch me, I snapped, pushing the door open with force. Deborah! George shouted after me as I stepped out. He stood frozen, disbelief etched across his face, as Jennifer raised her middle finger at him. I climbed into her car, and we sped off, leaving him standing alone in his chaos. My stomach and phone kept growling as I stepped into Jennifer's sitting room. I was so hungry and tired. You know you have to pick his call, Jennifer said. I groaned and threw myself onto the couch, sinking into it with exhaustion. Jennifer laughed. I'm starving. George really is the devil. I didn't even get my pizza because of him, I cried out. I got you, baby, she said, heading toward the kitchen. Let me heat something. My phone began to ring again, louder this time, as if it refused to be ignored. Deborah, pick up your phone! Jennifer called out from the kitchen. I'm not, I shouted back. I don't want to talk to him. Why? Because of what he did, I snapped. I don't remember Anthonio doing anything wrong, she said, her voice teasing. Except giving you a good time and making you feel alive. Her words hit me like a slap. My heart raced. What exactly did Anthonio do? I asked myself silently. You know he didn't do anything, Jennifer added, appearing beside me, reading my thoughts as if they were written across my face. The smell of pepperoni pizza drifted through the air, rich and warm. Oh, I murmured as she handed me a plate of half-eaten slices. For you, my love. I already had some, she said with a small grin. You're a lifesaver, I said, taking a bite. The flavor instantly soothed my nerves. But then my phone rang again. Jennifer sighed, snatched it off the table, hitting the answer button and handed it to me. Hello? Hello, baby? Deborah? Anthonio's voice spilled through the speaker, desperately. My chest tightened. I grabbed the phone from her and ended the call before I could think. The pizza suddenly turned to dust in my mouth. My appetite vanished. Tears prickled behind my eyes. Anthonio lied to me, I whispered, my voice breaking. Jennifer sighed softly. Deborah, come on. You know he didn't. If he hadn't told you, how would you even have found out? But why didn't he say something before we... I gestured helplessly, the words refusing to leave my mouth. Because it wasn't important, she said simply. Look, it's been over a year since Anthonio and I had a thing. If anyone's to blame for stirring up old flames, it's me. Her tone carried a rare sincerity, and though I could feel her truth, a hollow ache settled in my chest. I wished he had told me. It could have prepared me. Prepared you for what? A voice in my head mocked. They weren't even together. Go get your man. A small smile suddenly tugged at my lips as the thought took root. Can you dress me up like you? Sexy, bold, hot? I'm going to his studio, not talking over the phone. Jennifer's eyes lit up with delight. Damn, that's my girl. Before I could say another word, she grabbed my hand, pulling me to my feet. The half-eaten pizza tumbled onto the rug. Wait, let me pick that up. I'll deal with it later, she said, dragging me toward her bedroom. Go take a shower. I'll get your outfit ready. I hurried into the bathroom. When I came out wrapped in a towel, she spoke immediately. Go sit at the dresser. I obeyed. Perching on the stool, moments later she appeared beside me, tools in hand. Her expression was focused, determined, like she was preparing me for a competition. Within minutes, my face glowed under her touch. Red lipstick, soft shimmer on my cheeks, eyes dark and sultry. She spritzed layers of perfume over my neck, jasmine with a hint of chocolate. The scent wrapped around me like warmth. Spray it on your body and come here, she instructed, moving to the bed where a red dress lay waiting. I joined her, and she handed me the outfit, a short dress and shinning boots. Once I slipped them on, she tugged me to the mirror. Her fingers moved swiftly through my hair, brushing, parting, pinning one side up while letting the other cascade down freely. The mirror showed a new woman staring back, and she was done being the soft one. Then she picked up a long blazer, sliding it onto my shoulders from behind. She gave my backside a playful smack. Jennifer! I squealed, laughing. Let's go get your man, she said with a wink. My heart leaped in anticipation. Jennifer flashed a mischievous smile as she dropped me off in front of Anthonio's building. I'm waiting for the full story later, she teased. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out of the car, my pulse thundering in my ears. I could already imagine the look on his face when he saw me. Surprise, curiosity, something deeper. That thought alone gave me courage. When the elevator doors opened, I exhaled slowly, forced a confident smile, and walked toward his studio. I had barely raised my hand to knock when the door suddenly swung open. A man stepped out, shaking hands with Anthonio. They both turned when they noticed me. Oh, wow, the man muttered, his eyes lingering for a moment. Anthonio froze, staring at me like he had forgotten how to speak. She looks incredible, the man said casually. Who is she? I've never seen her before. I stood there, my chest rising and falling as my confidence started to waver under their attention. Deborah, Antonio finally said, my name leaving his lips slowly. She's with me. Something stirred inside me at those words. It had been a long time since anyone had claimed like that. You can go now, Antonio told the man, his tone firm. I'll send your work later. The man nodded but kept glancing back at me before finally leaving. Antonio pulled me inside and shut the door. When he turned back to face me, his expression had changed. Why are you dressed like this? He asked quietly, his eyes scanning my outfit with a mix of surprise and concern. You like it, I replied, gaining a little confidence as I stepped closer. Deborah, he warned softly, tension in his voice. That warning only pushed me further. I could see the conflict in his expression. I leaned forward and brushed a soft kiss against his lips, my hand resting lightly against his chest. What are you doing? He asked quickly, gently taking my wrists and lowering my hands. Deborah, what's going on? I lifted one leg slightly, standing closer than before. Isn't this what you like? I asked quietly, confidence, boldness. What are you talking about? His expression tightened with confusion. Isn't that why you were drawn to Jennifer? I asked, bitterness slipping into my voice. Or the others? Because they were more daring? No, Deborah, he said firmly. That wasn't feelings. That was nothing real. Then look at me like that, I said, my voice trembling. Look at me the way you looked at them. He stepped back immediately, shaking his head. No, Deborah, what's gotten into you? You don't want me anymore, do you? My voice cracked as I looked at him. Of course I want you, he said, running a hand through his hair in frustration. I lowered my gaze, shame rising in my chest. He suddenly caught my hand and placed it briefly against his chest, his heartbeat steady under my palm. See? He said quietly. Then prove it, I whispered, desperation slipping into my voice. Look at me the way you look at them. His body tensed and he stepped away again. No, he said firmly. Deborah, that's not what I fell for. He gestured gently toward my dress, then touched a finger to my chest. I fell for you, he said, the woman who didn't need to pretend. The one who was simply herself. His words hit me harder than I expected. But I feel confident in this, I said softly, my voice trembling as much as my heart. No, he repeated quietly. That single word shattered something inside me. So I'm not enough to make you want me? I asked. No, that's not what I meant. I didn't wait for him to finish. I turned and walked toward the door, my heels echoing loudly against the floor. Deborah, wait! Please listen! He called after me. But I didn't stop. As I stepped into the elevator, I heard something crash behind me, and his frustrated shout echo through the studio. Tears blurred my vision as I walked through the lobby and out into the bright sunlight. The heat touched my face, but I barely noticed. I feel confident in this, I whispered to myself. His voice echoed in my mind. The world around me blurred, the noise, the light, everything. Then I heard the sound of screeching tires, a loud crash, and everything went dark.